So I want to talk about how a lot of times we overlook women in thinking that the spirit of perversion will skip a woman. And yes, I am one of those women who would probably rather be stuck in the woods with a bear versus being stuck in the woods with a man. But the spirit of perversion doesn't skip female gender. I'm going to be using code words for the sake of the internet, but please protect your children, not just from men and boys, but from women and girls too. So, my story is the first time that I saw corn, all right, adult film. I saw it because of a stud relative, right? So, this stud relative, she was maybe in her late 50s, early 60s, and I was visiting down south, and my father left me with her because he wanted to run the streets and chase women in North Carolina. And this woman decided, oh, I'm going to do your hair. And I said, okay, no problem. I remember her putting a pillow on the floor. I'm sitting on the pillow, sitting between her legs, and she started to do my hair. When she puts on a corn movie, I'm probably about 6 or 7 years old, and that was the first time I ever seen adults interacting in intimacy. And I was so blown away because I didn't know what lesbianism was. I didn't know what bisexuality was. I was just like, what are they doing and why are two girls together? I was so scared. I didn't tell my father, I didn't tell my grandmother, I didn't tell my mother, and I kept that to myself. Probably about 7 or 8 years old, I would sleep over two relatives' homes who were girls and a friend. And they began to kiss me and they began to touch me, right? And because a child is not emotionally intelligent, they do not know how to handle situations like this, especially dealing with emotions and sex. I was scared. I didn't want to get them in trouble. So I didn't tell their parents. I didn't tell my parents that every time I go to my relative's house, she's kissing me. And these three young ladies, two of them grew up to be bisexual, one of them grew up to be gay. And I'm not, upset with these young ladies, but you need to check on your kids. Just because it's two little girls in a room together doesn't mean that something is not happening. And then there were the narcissistic mothers that would bust into a room and just watch me undress, or narcissistic relatives who would watch me undress, or take a bath. And they weren't looking at me to make sure I was safe. They were looking at me in a sexual way. And I knew that energy was wrong, but I could not word it to my parents, right? So when your children go over to people's homes, you have to understand you don't know what's going on to them and what's going on in their home, what they're seeing on TV, what they're watching on the internet, what a relative or a friend has done to them to make them sexually active or curious at such a young age. I knew that I liked boys, but I wasn't thinking of sex at 5, 6 years old. It was introduced to me. And even when other people's children are at your house, bust in that room, check on them. Go down in that basement, check on your children. Leave the door open. Go in there every hour. Make sure nothing odd is happening, because for a long time I felt guilty. I felt insecure. I felt confused. I was a Christian little girl back then. I was like, oh my gosh, am I going to hell? I kissed a girl. It was just so weird in how I handled those experiences. Check on your kids and do not overlook women. Women are predators too. Remember that. That spirit of perversion or curiosity is in women as well.